Sarah Chen sat in the back corner of Professor Wilson's chemistry class, her worn notebook open to a blank page. Around her, students chatted excitedly about the upcoming weekend parties and the latest campus drama. Nobody looked at her. Nobody ever did. She was the quiet girl who lived off campus, always wore the same 3 outfits, and never stayed for club meetings or social events. "Miss Chen, are you with us today?" Professor Wilson's voice cut through the chatter. Sarah looked up, meeting his slightly annoyed gaze. "Yes, Professor. You were explaining the molecular structure of zentrium compounds." The professor blinked, surprised she had been paying attention. "Correct. And can you tell me why they're unstable in atmospheric conditions? The triple bond configuration breaks down when exposed to nitrogen-oxygen mixtures above certain pressures. The decay rate increases exponentially with temperature." Sarah's voice was steady, matter-of-fact. A few students turned to stare. The girl who never spoke just rattled off an answer that sounded like it came from a textbook. Professor Wilson nodded slowly, adjusting his glasses. "Very good. That's exactly right." Sarah returned her attention to her notebook, ignoring the curious glances. She had learned long ago that drawing attention was dangerous. At 23, she was older than most undergraduates, but nobody knew why. They assumed she had taken time off, maybe traveled or worked some dead-end jobs. The truth was classified at levels most governments didn't even acknowledge existed. When class ended, Sarah packed her single notebook and headed straight for the parking lot. No stopping at the student union. No browsing the bookstore. She walked past groups of laughing students with their entire lives ahead of them. Students who had never seen a plasma rifle tear through reinforced hull plating, who had never held a dying friend in zero gravity while enemy ships circled like sharks. Her car was a 15-year-old sedan held together mostly by hope and duct tape. It matched her carefully constructed image perfectly. She drove to her tiny apartment on the edge of town, where rent was cheap and neighbors minded their own business. Inside, Sarah locked 3 separate deadbolts and punched a code into a panel hidden behind a loose section of baseboard. A green light blinked. Secure. Only then did she allow her shoulders to relax slightly. The apartment was sparse. A mattress on the floor. A small table. A mini fridge. But hidden in a false panel beneath the floorboards was something else entirely. Sarah didn't open it. She never did unless absolutely necessary. Just knowing it was there was both a comfort and a reminder of everything she was trying to leave behind. She heated up instant noodles and sat by the window, watching the sun set over the quiet neighborhood. This was her life now. Boring, safe, anonymous. Everything she had fought for in a twisted sort of way. She had survived 3 tours in the outer colonies during humanity's bloodiest conflict with the Krell Dominion. She had earned 17 medals, commanded a spec ops unit that officially didn't exist, and carried out missions that would never be declassified. And now she was a college student trying to figure out organic chemistry. Her phone buzzed. Sarah's hand moved instinctively to her side, where she used to carry a sidearm. But there was nothing there now. She picked up the phone with deliberately slow movements, forcing herself to remain calm. It was a text from an unknown number. Just 3 words. "Package delivered, confirmed." Sarah deleted the message and powered off the phone. Her hands were shaking. She gripped the edge of the table until they stopped. That was the 3rd message this month. Someone was watching her. Someone knew where she was. But who, and more importantly, why? She had made the deal with Command. 5 years of silence in exchange for a clean discharge and a new identity. No contact. No involvement. She had upheld her end completely, so either Command was breaking protocol or someone else had found her. Sarah stood and began her evening routine. Push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups on the bar wedged in the bathroom doorframe. Her body moved through the exercises automatically, muscle memory from thousands of repetitions. The doctors had told her the cybernetic enhancements would degrade without regular military maintenance. They were wrong. She had learned to maintain them herself, using supplies carefully acquired from black market contacts who didn't ask questions. As she exercised, her mind worked through possibilities. The Krell War had officially ended 2 years ago with a fragile peace treaty. But she knew better than most that wars didn't really end. They just paused, regrouped, waited for the next excuse to explode. After showering, Sarah lay on her mattress and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow was Friday. Most students would be planning their weekends, thinking about parties and dates and all the normal things young people did. She would be attending class, taking notes, and maintaining her cover. But the message bothered her. "Package delivered." What package? She hadn't ordered anything. Hadn't made any unusual contacts. The phrase was coded, she was certain of that. In the old days, it meant an asset had been inserted into position. An operative was now active. Was someone targeting her, or was she being recruited for something? Sarah closed her eyes, but sleep wouldn't come easily. It never did. In the darkness behind her eyelids, she saw the things she tried to forget. The Battle of Proxima Station, where her unit held off a Krell assault force 10 times their size for 6 hours. The rescue mission on Titan's moon, where they pulled 47 colonists from a bombed-out shelter with only minutes before life support failed. The Black Ops raid on the Krell supply depot that turned into a bloodbath when intelligence proved catastrophically wrong. She saw the faces of the soldiers who didn't make it home. Lieutenant Marcus Williams, Corporal Amy Zhang, Private First Class David Torres, 37 others whose names were burned into her memory. They called her the Ghost of Andromeda, the soldier who appeared from nowhere, completed impossible missions, and vanished like smoke. Command had sent her places that would break most people. She had done things that kept her awake at night, all for humanity's survival. And now she was hiding in plain sight, pretending to be just another struggling college student. Sarah finally drifted into an uneasy sleep around midnight. She didn't dream. She had trained herself not 2 years ago. Dreams were dangerous. They made you vulnerable. Outside her apartment, a figure stood in the shadows across the street. The watcher had been there for 3 hours, observing, taking notes. The target was maintaining excellent operational security for a civilian. Excellent, but not perfect. Everyone made mistakes eventually. The watcher checked a small tablet displaying bio readings and thermal signatures. The target's heart rate had finally dropped to resting levels. She was asleep. Good. That meant there was time. Time to prepare for what was coming. Time to prepare for the moment when Sarah Chen would have to become the Ghost of Andromeda once more. The campus coffee shop smelled like burnt espresso and anxiety. Sarah sat at a corner table with her chemistry textbook open, though her eyes tracked every entrance and exit without appearing to look. Old habits, the kind that kept you alive when death lurked around every corner. Is this seat taken? Sarah glanced up to find a young man with friendly eyes and an eager smile. He wore a university hoodie and carried a laptop covered in band stickers. Completely harmless. Completely normal. Exactly the kind of interaction she had been avoiding. It's all yours, Sarah said, returning her attention to the textbook. I'm Kevin. I'm in your chemistry class. You absolutely destroyed that quiz yesterday. He sat down without waiting for encouragement. I was wondering if maybe you'd want to study together sometime. I'm seriously struggling with the whole molecular geometry thing. Sarah felt a familiar tightness in her chest. This was the problem with maintaining a low profile while actually attending classes. If you performed too poorly, you drew attention. If you performed too well, you drew a different kind of attention. Both were dangerous. I'm pretty busy, Sarah said, keeping her voice neutral. Come on, just like an hour or two. I'll buy coffee. Kevin's smile was genuine, hopeful. He had no idea he was talking to someone who had killed enemy combatants with her bare hands. Someone who could break his arm in 3 places before he even registered movement. Maybe, Sarah said, which was her polite way of saying never. I'll let you know. Kevin brightened like she had just agreed to marry him. Awesome. Here, let me give you my number. He scribbled on a napkin and slid it across the table. Sarah took it without looking at it, tucking it into her textbook. Kevin chatted for a few more minutes about campus life, professors, and some party happening this weekend. Sarah provided minimal responses, enough to avoid seeming rude but not enough to encourage further connection. When Kevin finally left to meet his friends, Sarah released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. This was why attachment was dangerous. Every connection was a potential vulnerability. Every relationship a weapon someone could use against you. Her phone vibrated. Another unknown number. Sarah stepped outside before checking the message. Rooftop. Building C, 15 minutes. Come alone. Sarah's jaw tightened. There it was. The summons she had been dreading since the first cryptic message. She could ignore it. Pack up right now, disappear again. She had done it before. New city, new identity, new life. But whoever was reaching out knew how to find her once. They would find her again. Better to confront this now on semi-controlled terms. Building C was the old engineering facility, scheduled for renovation but currently abandoned. Sarah approached from the west side, using the afternoon shadows for cover. Her eyes scanned for surveillance, for ambush positions, for anything out of place. The building appeared empty. She took the stairs rather than the elevator. Quieter, easier to hear if someone was waiting. Each step was silent, years of training overriding the natural tendency to make noise. At the roof access door, she paused, listened, breathing, just one person, based on the rhythm. Sarah pushed open the door and stepped into the afternoon sunlight. A man stood by the roof's edge, his back to her. Military posture. Probably 6'2" athletic build. He wore civilian clothes, but they hung on him wrong like a costume. When he turned, Sarah's entire body went rigid. "Hello, Ghost." Colonel Marcus Reeves smiled, though his eyes remained hard. "It's been a while." 2 years, Sarah said flatly. "Our agreement was no contact. Ever." Agreements change when circumstances demand it. Reeves walked closer, hands visible and empty, a gesture of peace that meant nothing between trained killers. "We have a situation, not my problem. I'm retired. There's no such thing as retired, not for people like us." Reeves pulled out a tablet, tapped it twice, and held it out. 3 weeks ago, someone attacked Research Station Helios. 47 scientists dead. The station completely destroyed. Sarah didn't take the tablet. "I watched the news, pirates, tragic but not unprecedented. That's the official story. The reality is different." Reeves pulled back the tablet, swiping through images. The attack was surgical. Professional, military-grade plasma weapons. And they took something before they blew the station. "What did they take?" "That's classified," Sarah almost laughed. "You want my help but won't tell me what was stolen?" "I'm trying to protect you. The less you know, the safer you are." Reeves met her eyes. The attackers left a calling card. "A signature we haven't seen since the war. Krell Special Forces methodology." That got Sarah's attention. The Krell signed the peace treaty. They're bound by the same terms we are. Official Krell forces, yes, but there are factions. Groups that never accepted the peace. They're operating in the shadows now and they're getting bolder. Reeves stepped closer. "Sarah, they specifically asked about you." The world seemed to tilt slightly. "What?" "During the attack, they accessed our personnel databases. They weren't looking for scientific data or weapon schematics. They were looking for information about the ghost of Andromeda." Reeves's expression was grave. "Whatever they stole from Helios, they need you to stop them from using it. Or they want you dead before you can interfere." Sarah turned away, walking to the roof's edge. Below, students moved between classes, laughing and talking, living their simple, uncomplicated lives, the life she had been trying to build for herself. "I can't," she said quietly. "I'm not that person anymore." "Yes, you are. You're just pretending not to be." Reeves came to stand beside her. "I know what you sacrificed. I know what the war cost you. But right now, you're the only person with the skills and experience to track these people down. Send someone else. You've got entire units trained for this. None of them have your record. None of them survived what you survived. None of them can do what you can do." Reeves pulled out a data chip. "This contains everything we know. Safe houses, contacts, equipment caches. If you decide to help, you'll have full operational authority." Sarah stared at the chip like it was a live grenade. In a way, it was. Taking it meant stepping back into a world she had fought to leave behind. It meant becoming the ghost again. It meant accepting that maybe she had never really stopped. "What happens if I say no? Then I disappear, and you go back to pretending to be a college student. But those people will keep killing, and eventually they'll come for you anyway." Reeves set the chip on the ledge between them. "This way at least you see them coming." He walked back toward the roof access door, then paused. "You saved my life once. Proxima Station. I was pinned down out of ammo, ready to die. You appeared out of nowhere like your call sign suggested. Killed 6 Krell soldiers with nothing but a combat knife and sheer determination. You told me something that day. Do you remember?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "We don't get to quit until everyone makes it home." Everyone didn't make it home, Sarah. A lot of good people died. But the ones who survived did so because of you, because you never quit, even when quitting was the rational choice. Reeves opened the door. "I'm not ordering you. I'm asking. Help us one more time. Help me keep more people from dying." Then he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him. Sarah stood alone on the roof for a long time. The sun moved lower in the sky. Classes ended. Students headed home or to evening activities. The campus slowly emptied. Finally, Sarah picked up the data chip. It was small, light. The weight of it in her palm felt like nothing at all. But she knew better. It weighed as much as all the lives, depending on what she decided to do next. Sarah inserted the data chip into her secured laptop at 2 in the morning. The screen flickered to life, displaying files that should have required 3 layers of military authorization to access. Reeves had given her everything. Operational reports, surveillance footage, intelligence assessments, personnel files. The attack on Research Station Helios played out in grainy security footage. Sarah watched with professional detachment as 4 figures in tactical gear moved through corridors with practiced efficiency. They knew exactly where to go. No wasted movement, no hesitation. One of them stopped at a terminal, downloaded something, then placed charges with surgical precision. The footage ended in static as the station exploded. Sarah replayed the clip, focusing on details. The lead attacker's gait suggested augmented joints, similar to her own modifications. The way they stacked up at doorways indicated special forces training. But it was their weapons that confirmed Reeves's assessment. Krell plasma rifles, but modified, upgraded with human technology that shouldn't exist outside classified military research facilities. Someone was combining human and Krell tech. That should have been impossible. The two systems operated on fundamentally different principles. During the war, integration had been one of humanity's most frustrating challenges, unless someone figured out how to bridge that gap. Sarah opened another file, Project Synthesis. The name alone made her stomach turn. According to the heavily redacted documents, Research Station Helios had been working on exactly that problem, integrating human and Krell technology to create hybrid weapon systems. The theoretical applications were staggering. Plasma weapons with human targeting AI, Krell shield generators powered by human fusion cores, battle armor that combined the best of both species. It was also a massive violation of the peace treaty. Both sides had agreed to keep their military technologies separate. No sharing, no integration. Too dangerous, too destabilizing. And now someone had stolen it all. Sarah scrolled through the list of scientists who died in the attack. 47 names. 47 families destroyed, men and women who believed they were making humanity safer. Working on the cutting edge of technology, they never stood a chance when trained killers came for them. The personnel database Reeves mentioned showed something interesting. The attackers had specifically searched for her file. They had spent 3 minutes accessing everything about her military record. Deployments, mission reports, classified operational details that should have triggered every security alarm in the database. But they didn't just read her file. They copied it. Took everything. Why? Sarah leaned back, thinking. If you're planning to use stolen weapons technology, why would you need information about one soldier, even a decorated special operations veteran, unless that soldier knew something you needed, or could stop what you planned to do? She pulled up tactical analysis reports from the war. The Krell had been formidable enemies, physically stronger than humans, better natural armor, more resilient to injury. But humanity had advantages too. Adaptability, creative thinking, the willingness to try insane strategies that no rational military doctrine would permit. That's why they created units like Sarah's, small teams operating beyond normal command structure, given impossible missions and the freedom to accomplish them however necessary. The Ghost Unit had been humanity's answer to Krell's superiority. Strike from shadows, hit where unexpected, disappear before response was possible. Sarah had led the Ghost Unit through 17 major operations, all successful. But success came at a cost. She lost good soldiers, made terrible choices, did things that still haunted her. Now someone wanted to know how she did it. A new file caught her attention. Incident reports from the past 3 months. Small attacks, nothing that made major news. A weapons depot hit, a transport convoy ambushed, a military communications relay destroyed. Each incident was written off as accidents or minor criminal activity. But Sarah saw the pattern. Someone was testing, learning human and Krell responses, gathering intelligence, building up to something bigger. The research station attack wasn't the beginning. It was the middle. Whatever this group planned, they were just getting started. Sarah closed the laptop and walked to her window. Dawn was still hours away. The street below was empty and quiet. Somewhere out there, people with hybrid weapons were preparing their next move, and they knew about her, knew her methods, her history, everything that made her dangerous. She should run, change identities again, disappear so completely that even Reeves couldn't find her. The smart move, the safe move. But Sarah had never been particularly good at smart or safe. 3 hours later, she stood in front of Professor Wilson's desk, dropping a handwritten note on his gradebook. "I need to withdraw from your class. Family emergency." Professor Wilson looked up, surprised. "Miss Chen, is everything all right?" "It will be." Sarah turned to leave. "Wait." The professor stood, concern crossing his face. "You're one of my best students. If you need an extension or some kind of accommodation, I appreciate that, but I need to handle this. Sarah paused at the door. The molecular structure stuff you're teaching next week? The Zentrium compounds? Tell your students the triple bond decay can be stabilized using resonance feedback. It's not in the textbook, but it works. She left before he could ask how she knew that. The answer would raise too many questions. Zentrium compounds didn't exist in normal chemistry. They were synthetic materials developed for military shielding during the Krell War. Knowing their properties required security clearance and hands-on experience. Sarah spent the rest of the day closing out her civilian life. She paid her rent 6 months in advance with cash, withdrew her remaining savings, left a note for her landlord about a family situation, all the boring administrative details of disappearing. By evening, she stood in her empty apartment one last time. The false floor panel was open, revealing what she had kept hidden for 2 years. A titanium case containing items that didn't officially exist, items she wasn't supposed to have after discharge. Sarah opened the case. Her combat suit lay folded inside, matte black material that could stop most projectiles and regulate temperature in vacuum. Beside it, a neural interface crown that linked directly to her cybernetic enhancements. 3 magazines of armor-piercing rounds, a plasma cutter disguised as a multi-tool, false identification documents for 7 different identities, and at the bottom her old sidearm, a modified Reaper-class pistol that fired magnetically accelerated rounds capable of punching through Krell armor plates. Sarah picked up the pistol, checking the action automatically. It moved smoothly, perfectly maintained despite years of storage. She had carried this weapon through hell and back. It had saved her life more times than she could count. She strapped on the combat suit under her civilian clothes. The material activated, conforming to her body like a second skin. Neural interface crown went into a backpack along with the other equipment. The pistol went into a concealed holster at the small of her back. Looking in the mirror, she still appeared to be just another college student. Nobody would guess what she wore underneath, what she was capable of. That was the point. Sarah locked her apartment for the last time and headed for the first safe house listed in Reeves's files. It was 300 miles north in an industrial district that asked no questions. Along the way, she would make contact with old sources, shake loose information, start hunting the people who attacked Helios Station. As she drove through the night, Sarah felt the familiar coldness settling over her thoughts. The detachment that made killing possible, the tactical mindset that reduced problems to objectives and obstacles. She had tried to leave this behind, tried to be normal, but normal wasn't an option anymore. Maybe it never had been. The ghost of Andromeda was active again, and somewhere out there, the people who made that necessary had no idea what they had unleashed. They had studied her record, read about her missions, analyzed her tactics, but records and analysis only told you what someone had done. They couldn't prepare you for what someone could do when you threatened the people they fought to protect, the humanity they bled for. Sarah smiled grimly as highway lights streaked past her window. They wanted the ghost. They were about to get her, and they were going to learn why legends were more terrifying than any weapon. The safe house looked like every other warehouse in the industrial sector. Rusted siding, broken windows, graffiti decorating the walls. Perfect camouflage. Sarah circled the block twice before approaching, checking for surveillance and potential ambush points. Old instincts ran deep. The access code Reeves provided worked on the 3rd try. Inside, the warehouse transformation was dramatic, clean, organized, stocked with enough weapons and equipment to outfit a small military unit. Whoever maintained these facilities took their job seriously. Sarah secured the entrance and activated the facility's detection systems. Motion sensors, thermal scanners, audio pickups, all military grade, all highly illegal for civilian possession. The perimeter map displayed on a wall screen, showing her a 3-block radius of empty streets and quiet buildings. She allowed herself to relax, slightly. The workstation in the corner had encrypted satellite uplink and access to intelligence networks that shouldn't exist outside government facilities. Sarah logged in using credentials that Reeves included in the data package. The system accepted her immediately, displaying a welcome message that made her jaw tighten. Welcome back. Coast current threat level critical. Sarah pulled up recent incident reports, cross-referencing dates and locations with the pattern she had identified. 18 attacks over 3 months. Each one seemingly random, but when mapped, they formed a clear geographic progression, moving from outer colony territories toward core human worlds. Whoever orchestrated this was being methodical, testing defenses, measuring response times, learning how to operate against peacetime security that had grown comfortable since the war ended. A message notification appeared. Secure channel, Colonel Reeves. Glad you decided to help. Intel update attached. We intercepted communications suggesting another attack within 72 hours. Target unknown. Authorization code confirms it's the same group that hit Helios. Sarah downloaded the communications intercept. Heavily encrypted, fragmented, but enough to identify key phrases. Shipment confirmation. Deployment ready. Final authorization pending. They were planning something bigger. The stolen technology from Helios was about to be used. Sarah spent the next 6 hours digging through intelligence reports, cross-referencing shipping manifests, and tracking unusual equipment movements. The tedious work of analysis that nobody talked about when discussing special operations. Success came from careful preparation far more often than dramatic firefights. She found it buried in commercial transport logs. A shipment listed as mining equipment bound for Titan's southern colony. The manifest looked legitimate. Proper documentation, approved routing, standard cargo configuration. Except the shipping company didn't exist. The business registration led to a shell corporation that dissolved 3 weeks ago. And the listed cargo weight was 6 tons heavier than the declared equipment could possibly account for. 6 tons. About right for military-grade weapon systems and the hybrid technology stolen from Helios. Sarah pulled up Titan colony layouts. Population 300,000. Major hydrogen mining operations. Minimal military presence since the war ended. If someone wanted to test hybrid weapons against a significant target without triggering immediate military response, Titan was perfect. She sent her findings to Reeves with a simple message. Found them. Titan colony. Attack imminent. Need transport and authorization to operate. The reply came within minutes. Transport arranged. Arrives in 4 hours. Authorization granted. Rules of engagement. Eliminate threat by any means necessary. No backup available. This is shadow operations. Official denial if you're compromised. Sarah smiled without humor. Shadow operations. The military's polite term for completely disavowed missions where soldiers didn't officially exist. She had run dozens during the war. Apparently some things never changed. She used the waiting time to prepare. The warehouse armory contained impressive resources. Sarah selected equipment carefully. Light body armor with integrated shield generator. Compact plasma rifle with human targeting modifications. Her personal sidearm with extra magazines. Breaching charges. Medical supplies. Combat drugs that would keep her functioning through injuries that would drop normal soldiers. The neural interface crown connected to her cybernetic enhancements with familiar precision. Diagnostic data streamed through her consciousness. Joint servos optimal. Reflexes enhanced. Targeting assistance online. Pain suppressors ready but inactive. She would save those for when they were needed. Sarah checked herself in a mirror. The reflection showed what she had been trying to forget. A weapon, precise, deadly, built for violence. The college student disguise was gone. This was who she really was. A transport shuttle arrived exactly on schedule, landing in the warehouse courtyard with minimal noise. The pilot was professional, asking no questions and offering no conversation. He simply handed her approach authorization codes and estimated arrival time. 6 hours to Titan. Weather's clear. No complications expected. He paused. Colonel said you might need gunship support. I've got air-to-ground capabilities if things get messy. Hopefully it won't come to that. Sarah secured her equipment in the passenger compartment, but keep your weapons hot just in case. The shuttle lifted off smoothly, ascending through Earth's atmosphere into the black of space. Sarah watched the planet shrink below, thinking about all the people down there who had no idea what was happening. They believed the war was over. They felt safe. That safety was an illusion she was about to shatter. The flight to Titan gave her time to review colony layouts and plan her approach. The shipment was scheduled to arrive at the main spaceport in 18 hours. Too public for an attack. They would move it somewhere isolated, somewhere they could test the weapons without immediate discovery. Sarah identified 3 possible locations: an abandoned mining facility on the colony's eastern perimeter, a maintenance depot that processed equipment for the hydrogen extractors, a supposedly decommissioned military bunker from the war era. The bunker made the most sense. It would have power connections, reinforced structures, containment systems if something went wrong. Perfect for testing experimental weapons. She marked it as primary target and began planning infiltration routes. Titan's orange atmosphere came into view 6 hours later. The colony's lights created a small oasis of civilization in the hostile moon's frozen landscape. The shuttle descended smoothly, landing at a private pad far from the main spaceport. "I'll be monitoring military channels," the pilot said as Sarah gathered her equipment. "If you need extraction, use emergency frequency 7. I'll come in hot." "Understood. If you don't hear from me in 24 hours, assume I'm dead and report everything to Colonel Reeves." The pilot nodded grimly. "Good hunting, Ghost." Sarah stepped into Titan's environment suit and exited the shuttle. The colony's artificial gravity made movement easier than expected. She blended into foot traffic easily. Just another maintenance worker heading for the outer districts. The abandoned bunker was 12 kilometers from the colony center. Sarah covered the distance on foot, using the terrain for concealment. Titan's surface was unforgiving. Methane lakes, jagged ice formations, temperatures that would kill an unprotected human in seconds, but Sarah wasn't unprotected. Her combat suit regulated temperature perfectly. Her cybernetic enhancements let her move faster and more efficiently than normal soldiers. The neural interface provided tactical data directly to her consciousness. She was built for this. Created for it. All the enhancements and modifications and training had one purpose: make her better at killing than anyone else. The bunker appeared through Titan's haze. Lights glowed inside. Power signatures confirmed active systems. Thermal scans showed at least 15 people. Armed, alert. Professional security posture. Sarah found an old maintenance access tunnel, sealed but not welded. She used the plasma cutter to open it quietly, then slipped inside. The tunnel was dark and cramped. Perfect. Inside the bunker, she could hear voices. Equipment being assembled, someone giving orders in a language that mixed human and Krell words. The hybrid force Reeves had mentioned. Sarah moved through darkness like her call sign suggested: silent, invisible, deadly. She reached a ventilation grate overlooking the main chamber and finally saw what she was up against. The stolen technology was set up in the center of the room. A massive weapon system that combined Krell plasma generators with human targeting and power systems. Beautiful in a terrible way. And it was aimed at the colony. At 300,000 civilians who had no idea they were about to become a test demonstration. 15 guards. 3 technicians working the weapon. 2 supervisors coordinating everything. 20 targets total. Sarah had faced worse odds. She checked her equipment one final time. The neural interface ran combat scenarios, calculating approach vectors and kill sequences. Her hands moved to weapons with practiced ease. The Ghost of Andromeda took a slow breath and prepared to remind these people why humanity survived the war. Not because they were stronger, not because they had better technology, but because when pushed to the edge, humans became absolutely terrifying in their determination to protect their own. Time to work. Sarah dropped from the ventilation shaft in complete silence. Her boots touched concrete without making a sound. Years of practice making impossible things routine. The nearest guard stood 3 meters away, checking a data pad. He never heard her coming. Her combat knife was pure human design. Monomolecular edge. Could cut through Krell armor like paper. The guard dropped without a sound, and Sarah dragged him into shadows before his partner could turn around. Neural interface calculated trajectories. 19 targets remaining. Weapon charging sequence 70% complete. Time until the colony died. Approximately 14 minutes. Sarah moved. The second guard turned at the last second, opening his mouth to shout. Sarah's pistol coughed once, the suppressed round punching through his faceplate. Plasma rifles took time to charge. Conventional weapons were still faster for close work. 3 seconds. 2 targets down. Alarms started wailing. Someone had spotted the bodies. Sarah cursed and activated her shield generator. The air around her shimmered as energy barriers formed. Not invincible, but enough to buy seconds. In combat, seconds meant everything. Plasma bolts lit up the darkness. Sarah rolled behind a support pillar as superheated energy scorched the concrete where she had been standing. Her neural interface tracked the shooters. 5 guards converging from the east side. 3 more coming from equipment storage. The technicians were scrambling to complete the weapon sequence. Sarah pulled a breaching charge from her belt and threw it high. The small explosive arced through the air, magnetic clamps activating. It stuck to an overhead pipe junction. She counted 3 heartbeats, then triggered it. The explosion was precise, controlled. The pipe ruptured, releasing pressurized coolant that flooded the eastern approach. Guards shouted in confusion as freezing mist obscured their vision. Sarah used the distraction to change positions, moving to higher ground on a catwalk overlooking the chamber. From elevated position, she had clean sight lines. Her plasma rifle hummed to life. First shot took down a guard trying to flank through the mist. Second shot hit another who was calling for reinforcements. The hybrid weapon glowed brighter. Charging sequence at 85%. 8 minutes until 300,000 people died. Sarah vaulted over the catwalk railing, dropping 12 feet to the lower level. Her cybernetic joints absorbed the impact easily. She came up firing, her pistol barking 3 times in rapid succession. Each shot found its target, headshots, center mass. The efficient killing that special operations training drilled into muscle memory until it became automatic. A massive figure emerged from the shadows. Krell. Full battle armor, nearly 8 feet tall with natural plating that could stop most human weapons. He carried a plasma cannon that could punch through reinforced hull plating. Sarah's neural interface ran combat calculations instantly. Direct confrontation, 92% casualty probability. Evasion and flanking, 67% success rate. Weapon system would complete charging during extended engagement. No choice. Had to be fast. The Krell warrior roared, a sound that could freeze human soldiers with instinctive fear. Sarah had heard it before. During the war, that roar preceded brutal close combat where Krell physical superiority dominated. But Sarah wasn't a normal soldier. She sprinted directly at him. The warrior's plasma cannon tracked her movement, but Sarah was faster. Her cybernetic enhancements pushed her beyond human limits. She slid under his first shot, the plasma bolt passing centimeters above her head. Her knife came out in a smooth motion, cutting through the exposed joint at his knee. The warrior stumbled. Sarah used his massive body as cover, staying close where his cannon couldn't target her. Her knife found the gaps in his armor. Neck seal, arm joint, power cable. Each strike was surgical, precise. The warrior crashed to the ground, his armor suddenly dead weight. 11 targets remaining. Weapon charging at 92%, 5 minutes. Sarah grabbed the fallen plasma cannon. It was nearly too heavy for human use, designed for Krell strength. But her cybernetic enhancements made the impossible merely difficult. She braced it against a support pillar and opened fire on the weapon platform. Plasma bolts hammered the hybrid device. Energy shields flared around it, absorbing the impact. The technicians were screaming, trying to protect their creation. One of them pulled a sidearm and returned fire. Sarah felt the bullet punch into her shoulder, stopped by her armor, but the impact still hurt. Pain suppressors activated automatically. The agony became distant, manageable. Sarah kept firing. The shield around the weapon flickered, overloading. Sarah poured everything the plasma cannon had into that weakening barrier. The technicians were diving for cover now. Guards were trying to reach her position, but she had excellent cover and superior firepower. The shield collapsed. Sarah's next shot hit the weapon's power core. The hybrid technology was impressive, combining human and Krell systems in ways that shouldn't work. But all technology had vulnerabilities. All systems had breaking points. The power core fractured, energy bleeding out in cascading failure. The weapon began to shut down. Sarah dropped the empty plasma cannon and drew her pistol. 3 technicians were still alive. 5 guards remained. The supervisors had disappeared, probably running for escape vehicles. She couldn't let them report what happened here. Couldn't let them build another weapon. Moving through the facility, Sarah became what her call sign promised. A ghost, appearing from nowhere, striking without warning, disappearing before retaliation was possible. This was what she had been trained for, what she was built for. One guard caught her with a glancing plasma shot. It burned through her armor, searing skin and muscle. Sarah gritted her teeth and kept moving. Another guard tried to ambush her from a doorway. She shot him twice before he could pull the trigger. A technician tried to surrender. Sarah hesitated for a fraction of a second, then shot him anyway. He had helped build a weapon aimed at civilians. Some crimes deserved no mercy. The facility fell silent. Sarah stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by bodies and burning equipment. Her armor was scorched. Blood leaked from multiple wounds. Her shoulder throbbed where the bullet had hit. But she was alive. The weapon was destroyed. The colony was safe. Neural interface ran final diagnostics. 2 supervisors had escaped through the northern exit tunnel. Sarah pulled up facility maps. The tunnel led to a hangar bay with private shuttles. They would escape. Report to whoever funded this operation. Build another weapon somewhere else. Unacceptable. Sarah forced her battered body to move. Every step hurt. The combat drugs in her system kept her functional, but they couldn't eliminate pain entirely. She reached the tunnel and started running. Her legs felt like lead. Vision blurred at the edges. Too much damage. Too much stress. Even enhanced bodies had limits. The hangar was 300 meters away. Sarah could hear shuttle engines powering up. They were leaving, getting away, taking everything they knew about the hybrid technology with them. She pushed harder, faster. Her cybernetic joints screamed warnings. Muscle tissue was tearing. Systems were overheating. Sarah ignored everything, focused on the mission. Complete the objective. Nothing else mattered. The hangar doors came into view. A shuttle was lifting off, its engines roaring. Through the cockpit window, Sarah saw the two supervisors. One human, one Krell. Both wearing expressions of smug confidence. They thought they had escaped. Sarah raised her plasma rifle. The weapon was nearly depleted. Maybe 2 shots remaining. She activated her neural interface targeting assistance. Wind speed, distance, shuttle acceleration, engine heat signatures. The calculations ran in microseconds. She fired. The first shot missed by centimeters as the shuttle banked hard. The second shot hit the port engine assembly. Not a kill shot, but enough. The engine exploded, sending the shuttle into an uncontrolled spin. It crashed into Titan's frozen surface 200 meters from the hangar, erupting in flames. Sarah walked to the crash site slowly. Her body was shutting down. The combat drugs were wearing off, allowing the full extent of her injuries to register. Broken ribs, second-degree burns, bullet wound, plasma burns, severe muscle damage. She probably had minutes before she collapsed completely. But she reached the crash site, confirmed both supervisors were dead, recovered their data storage devices. Mission complete. Sarah triggered her emergency beacon. The shuttle pilot would be tracking it. He would come for extraction. She just had to stay conscious long enough for rescue to arrive. She sat down on Titan's frozen ground, back against a rock formation. Her armor's medical systems were working overtime, administering emergency treatment, sealing wounds, stabilizing vital signs, keeping her alive. Sarah looked at Titan colony in the distance. Lights glowing peacefully. 300,000 people going about their lives. None of them would ever know how close they came to annihilation. None of them would know who saved them. That was fine. Ghosts didn't need recognition. They just needed to get the job done. The shuttle appeared 15 minutes later, landing in emergency mode. The pilot ran over, his face pale when he saw her condition. "We need to get you to medical immediately." "I'm fine," Sarah lied. "Just get me off this moon." The pilot helped her to the shuttle. As they lifted off, Sarah watched the burning wreckage disappear below. Sarah woke in a military medical facility 3 days later. The room was sterile white, filled with monitoring equipment that beeped steadily. Her body felt distant, wrapped in the fog of pain medication and regeneration therapy. An IV drip fed nutrients and advanced healing compounds into her bloodstream. Colonel Reeves sat in a chair beside her bed, reading reports on a datapad. He looked up when her eyes opened. "Welcome back. The doctor said you were touch and go for a while." He set down the pad. "You destroyed the weapon, eliminated the entire team, recovered critical intelligence. Textbook operation. Didn't feel textbook." Sarah's voice was rough, her throat dry. Felt like barely surviving. "That's what makes you good at this. You push past barely surviving and complete the mission anyway." Reeves poured water from a pitcher, helping her drink. "The data you recovered from those supervisors was invaluable. We traced their funding back to a splinter group, Krell extremists who never accepted the peace treaty. They've been operating in secret for 2 years, building resources and recruiting." Sarah processed this information through her medication haze. "How many more weapons did they build?" "Unknown. But we have locations now. Safe houses, manufacturing facilities, command structures." Reeves leaned forward. "We're organizing strike teams to hit them simultaneously. Cut off the head of this organization before it grows stronger." "When do I deploy?" "You don't. You're on medical leave for 6 weeks minimum. Your body took severe damage. The cybernetic systems need recalibration. You pushed yourself beyond safe limits." Reeves's expression was firm. "I'm not asking, Ghost, I'm ordering." "Stand down and recover," Sarah wanted to argue. Every instinct said there was still work to do. Still threats to eliminate. But her body made the decision for her. She could barely lift her arms. Walking was impossible. Fighting was out of the question. 6 weeks, she agreed reluctantly. Reeves stood to leave, then paused. "That student who wanted to study with you. Kevin something. He filed a missing person report when you didn't show up to class. Campus security has been looking for you." Sarah's chest tightened. She had forgotten about Kevin, about her civilian life, about the normal world that existed outside military operations and shadow wars. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing yet. But you need to decide what happens next. You can't go back to playing college student. Not after this. These people know who you are now. Where you were. They'll look for you again. Reeves met her eyes. You need to choose, Sarah. Stay in the shadows and help us eliminate these threats. Or walk away completely, get a new identity, and disappear for real this time. After Reeves left, Sarah lay in the medical bed thinking about choices. During the war, everything was clear. The enemy was obvious. The mission was survival. Kill or be killed. Protect humanity or watch it burn. Peace complicated everything. The enemy wore civilian clothes. Operated through shell corporations. Hid among normal people. And stopping them meant becoming something that couldn't exist in normal society. A weapon, a ghost, something that lived in shadows and violence. She had tried to walk away once, built a life around chemistry classes and cheap apartments, pretended she could be normal. But normal wasn't real. It was a comfortable lie that people told themselves while others fought to maintain the illusion of safety. Sarah had seen too much. Done too much. She couldn't unsee the threats that lurked in the darkness. Couldn't unknow the terrible truth that peace was maintained through constant vigilance and calculated violence. 3 weeks into her recovery, Sarah received another visitor. A young woman in a military uniform, Lieutenant Jane Park. She looked nervous, clutching a data pad like a shield. "I'm sorry to bother you, ma'am. Colonel Reeves said you might be able to help with something." Sarah struggled to sit up straighter, her healing body protesting. "What do you need, Lieutenant?" "I'm leading one of the strike teams. We're hitting a suspected weapons facility in the Mars colonies next week. Intelligence suggests they have another hybrid device under construction." Park pulled up schematics on the data pad. "I've studied your operations. Read every mission report. I was hoping you could advise on the approach." Sarah looked at the schematics. Manufacturing facility. Multiple entry points. Probable guard force. Civilian population nearby. Standard high-risk scenario. What's your plan? Sarah asked. Park outlined her strategy. Multi-team simultaneous breach. Overwhelming force. Fast extraction. It was solid, professional. By the book. "You'll lose people," Sarah said quietly. "Your plan is good, but it assumes the enemy will react predictably. They won't. They've learned from Titan. They know someone with advanced training is hunting them. They'll have contingencies. So what would you do differently?" Sarah thought about all the missions she had run. All the times textbook tactics would have gotten her unit killed. "You're thinking like a soldier. You need to think like a ghost. Don't breach simultaneously. That gives them time to trigger failsafes and destroy evidence. Instead, infiltrate alone. One person. Completely silent. Take out their security from the inside. Then signal your teams to move in when the facility is already compromised. That's extremely dangerous for whoever infiltrates. Yes. But it saves everyone else. And it has the highest probability of mission success." Sarah met the young lieutenant's eyes. "I'm not asking you to do it. I'm explaining what works. You need to make your own decisions based on your team's capabilities." Park was quiet for a moment. "You always went in first, didn't you?" "That's what the reports don't say. You took the biggest risks yourself. That's what leaders do. You don't ask soldiers to face dangers you won't face yourself." Sarah felt old suddenly, tired. But leadership also means knowing when to pull back, when to let others carry the weight. "I never learned that lesson. Pushed too hard, lost too many good people because I thought I could save everyone." "But you did save people, thousands, maybe millions." Park's voice was earnest. "The war would have gone very differently without operators like you." Sarah didn't respond. She had saved people, yes, but at what cost? She remembered faces, names, soldiers who followed her into hell because they trusted her. Not all of them came back. Their deaths were on her responsibility, her burden. Park left after another hour of tactical discussion. Sarah lay back exhausted. The conversation had drained her more than physical therapy. Thinking about operations, about combat, about sending young soldiers into danger, it brought everything back. 2 weeks later, Sarah was cleared for light duty. Her body had healed remarkably fast. Military regeneration therapy was impressive. The burns were mostly healed, bones mended, muscles rebuilt. Her cybernetic systems had been recalibrated and upgraded. She was deadlier than ever. Reeves summoned her to his office for a briefing. The walls were covered with tactical displays showing locations across human space. Red markers indicated confirmed enemy facilities. Yellow markers showed suspected sites. There were dozens. Lieutenant Park's mission was successful. No casualties. They captured significant intelligence. Reeves pulled up mission footage. "She used your infiltration strategy. Went in alone. Disabled security. Her team walked into a compromised facility. It was a textbook operation. Sarah watched the footage. Park moved well, professional, efficient. Not as good as Sarah, but few people were. The mission succeeded because Park was smart enough to adapt tactics to circumstances. We've hit 8 facilities in the past 2 weeks. The enemy is scattered, disorganized, but they're still dangerous. Reeves changed the display. We've identified their leadership. A Krell general named Thrakor. He was a strategic commander during the war. Never accepted the peace terms. He's been building this organization for years, planning a return to conflict. Where is he? Unknown. He moves constantly. Uses multiple identities. Very careful. Reeves met her eyes. But we have a lead. One of his lieutenants operates on Europa. We think we can capture him and extract information about Thrakor's location. You want me to lead the operation? I want you to decide if you're staying. Really staying. Not for one mission. For the duration. Reeves's voice was serious. This won't end quickly. Thrakor has resources. Support. Fanatical followers who believe humanity violated the peace treaty by pursuing hybrid technology. They think they're the righteous ones. Sarah walked to the tactical display, studying the markers. So many facilities, so many threats, and behind them all, one Krell general who refused to accept that the war was over. She thought about Kevin, who just wanted a study partner. About Professor Wilson, who taught chemistry to students who would never see combat. About 300,000 people on Titan who lived because she stopped a weapon from firing. Some people got to live normal lives, got to worry about grades and relationships and mundane concerns. But that normality existed because others stood in the darkness. Others fought the battles that couldn't be acknowledged. Others became ghosts. I'm staying, Sarah said, but I want operational authority. I choose my team. I choose the missions. And I don't follow standard protocols. We do this my way. Reeves smiled slightly. I expected nothing less. Welcome back, Ghost. Over the following months, Sarah assembled her unit. Not the best soldiers. The smartest ones. People who understood that this war was different. Fought in shadows. Without recognition. Without glory. Just the grim satisfaction of keeping civilians safe. Lieutenant Park was her first recruit. Then came Martinez, a demolitions expert who could make explosives from household chemicals. Chen, a communications specialist who could hack Krell and human systems equally well. Ramirez, a pilot who flew like physics was optional. Jackson, a sniper who never missed. They trained together, ran simulations, built the trust that made special operations possible. Sarah taught them everything she knew. Every trick, every tactic, every hard lesson learned through blood and failure. They hit enemy facilities across human space. Sometimes clean operations with no casualties. Sometimes desperate fights where survival was uncertain. But they always completed the mission. Always protected civilians. Always eliminated the threat. Word spread among enemy forces. Whispers of a ghost who appeared from nowhere. A human who fought like legends come to life. A soldier who couldn't be stopped. Thrakor's organization began to fear the darkness. Began to doubt their cause. That was good. Fear was a weapon. Doubt was ammunition. Sarah stood in the safe house looking at mission photos pinned to a wall. Facilities destroyed. Enemies neutralized. Civilians saved. This was her life now. Not college. Not normal. Just the endless fight against those who would threaten humanity. Her team was prepping equipment for their next operation. Europa, Thrakor's lieutenant, one step closer to ending this threat permanently. Martinez looked over from checking explosives. You think we'll ever finish this? Eliminate every threat? No, Sarah said honestly. There will always be another threat. Another enemy. Another war. But we can stop this one. We can eliminate Thrakor. We can dismantle his organization. And then we find the next threat. And we stop that too. Sarah checked her weapons, the routine familiar and comforting. That's what ghosts do. We haunt the darkness. We protect people who'll never know we exist. We fight wars that aren't officially happening. Chen laughed. That's pretty dark, boss. That's reality. Sarah looked at her team. Young, capable, willing to sacrifice everything for a cause larger than themselves. But we choose this life. Nobody forced us. We could walk away anytime, but we don't. Because someone has to stand in the darkness. Someone has to be the monster that fights other monsters. They finished prep in comfortable silence. Tomorrow they would deploy to Europa. Hunt down Thrakor's lieutenant. Extract information. Move one step closer to ending this shadow war. But tonight Sarah allowed herself a moment of reflection. She thought about the girl she used to be. the college student trying to be normal. That person was gone. Maybe she never really existed. This was who Sarah Chen really was, the ghost of Andromeda, a legend walking among humans, a weapon aimed at humanity's enemies, a guardian standing between civilians and horrors they couldn't imagine. No one at school had known her secret. But in the army her name was legend. And as long as threats existed, as long as enemies plotted in darkness, that legend would endure. Sarah checked her equipment one final time, then headed to the briefing room. Her team was waiting. The mission was waiting. And somewhere in the shadows, humanity's enemies were about to learn once again why ghosts were more terrifying than any weapon ever built. The war continued, silent, deadly, eternal. And Sarah Chen would fight it until her last breath, because that's what heroes did, even when nobody knew they existed.